One world, one nation.
Islam Ahmadiyat, Islam Ahmadiyat.
I don't drink. Whenever they're looking for something good, I say, never had a glass of alcohol. I've never had alcohol. I've just, for whatever reason. Can you imagine if I had? What a mess I'd be. I'd be the world's worst. But I never drank, okay?
Hazur says, abstain from every type of intoxicant. It is not alcohol alone that ruins a person. Opium, ganja, charas, bhang, tadi, and all other addictions are similarly destructive. They ruin the minds and they destroy lives. You mean not even hookah or shisha? Someone may be thinking, yes, not even hookah or shisha. That is the beauty of having Khalifatul Masih. In January of 2014, Hazur mentioned it in his sermon. Our Khilafat is so ahead of us. These are visionary leaders.
I learned myself. I had a brother, Fred, great guy, best looking guy, best personality, much better than mine. But he had a problem. He had a problem with alcohol. And he would tell me, don't drink, don't drink. He was substantially older, and I listened to him, and I respected, but he would constantly tell me, don't drink. He'd also add, don't smoke. But he would say it over and over and over again. And to this day, I've never had a drink. And I have no longing for it. I have no interest in it. To this day, I've never had a cigarette. Don't worry, those are only two of my good things. I don't want to tell you about the bad things.
Last year, just in my homeland, America, 80,000 Americans died because of alcohol. That's, put in perspective, that's more American deaths in 1 year as compared to what Vietnam War did to us in 20 years. We lost 58,000 Americans in 20 years in a war. Here in Canada, 5,000 people died just because of alcohol-related issues. 5,000. We have not lost that many Canadians and Americans to terrorism, including 9/11, since 9/11. That's the magnitude every year. And this is what you see on the surface.
There's plenty of bad things too. But he really helped me. I had somebody that guided me. And he had a very, very, very tough life because of alcohol. Believe me, very, very tough, tough life. He was a strong guy, but it was a tough, tough thing that he was going through. But I learned because of Fred. I learned.
He was an executive, making six-figure salary, high six figures. Went home, drank responsibly, unwind, drink again, drink again. Before he knows, he has a habit. He becomes a drunk. He starts getting into violent fight at work, violent fights at home. People are asking him to go get treatment. He gets treatment, loses his job, gets another job, and then becomes sober. But the story doesn't end there. These drugs are toxic. They don't leave you. 2 years later, his son develops a physical condition, who's still a minor, goes to see a doctor. While the interview, the doctor asks him questions and realizes that the son was abused. He asks the son, what's your biggest fear? He says, my biggest fear is my dad coming home drunk and beating me with a belt.
And that's what I think is so important. This was an idea that I had, where if we can teach young people not to take drugs, just not to take them. When I see friends of mine that are having difficulty with not having that drink at dinner, where it's literally almost impossible for them to stop, I say to myself, I can't even understand it. Why would that be difficult? But we understand why it is difficult. The fact is, if we can teach young people and people generally not to start, it's really, really easy not to take them.
You go into a construction area, you wear a safety hat. You get into a car, you wear a seat belt, safety belt. You go into a house, you're a safety alarm. You go to work, there's a safety manual. It's to the extent we have safety pins. And yet, in that same society, thousands of people are dying of drugs. We call it legal. It's crazy. When you really think about it, the same parents who would never let the child out of that seat belt during their childhood years will let that 14-year-old go have a drink. That's when it starts, 14 years. You know, the same society that disapproves cousin marriages, alleging that it's risky for health, will allow alcohol, a substance that kills 3 million people in the world every year. That's more deaths than lung cancer and AIDS combined. Our religion, our faith is so beautiful that it doesn't scare people, it doesn't talk of punishments, it empowers you. I'll tell you a story. The solution to alcohol also comes from the faith. A man came to Azza sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our master prophet. He said, "O Prophet of Allah, I have 3 vices, but I don't have the capacity to give up all 3. I'm a liar, I'm a fornicator, and I drink. I'm a drunk. What do I do? If you were to tell me one, which one should I give up?" How many of you think Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, give up alcohol? Raise your hands. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, give up lying. The man said, came after some time, he said, "O Prophet of Allah, I've been able to give up all 3. Because when I was about to fornicate or when I was about to drink, I thought, what if the Prophet of Allah asks me about it and I will not be able to lie?" So I did not go near that. So just by that one advice, he was able to get rid of all his vices. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, we need to be true to ourselves. We need to stop lying. And trust me, if after this talk people said, "Oh, this was a great talk for the youth," then you missed the whole point. This is not just for the youth. This is for all of us. We all live, so remember City of Hope? Families live there. People are together. We're all together. It's not us versus them. So our Khalifa, our Imam has given us messages. We just don't pick up on those messages. It's time for us to go over those messages again.
One world, one nation.
इस्लाम अहमदियत, इस्लाम अहमदियत.